Hi, my name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help people build intentional, significant legacies for themselves and for their families by coaching them in real estate. Now, a big part of that today is going to be kind of showing you how buying property in Alaska is going to be so much different in some ways from other parts of the U.S. Obviously, there's always going to be some overlap, but this is Alaska. It's very different in a lot of ways, and so our real estate transaction and the considerations you have to take into account are also going to be different as well. So I'll jump into some of those today to kind of give you a feel for it. Before we get started though, make sure you give this video a like and make sure that if you do have any questions that you post those down in the comment section down below, and be happy to answer as many questions down there as I can. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it today. Now, the first thing that's going to set Alaska apart from the majority of the rest of the United States is we do not have AC up here. It is incredibly rare that you find a home up here that has AC. Obviously, commercial buildings, stores, stuff like that will have it in there. During the summertime, if it gets really hot, you'll kind of see some people kind of clustering around those buildings for that reason. But by and large, residential buildings, not really going to have AC. So that kind of makes it a little simpler for us. We're going to be focused way more on like the heating systems, whether that be furnace or a boiler, something like that. That's going to be more important to us than the AC. So number one, don't have to deal with the AC unit. Second thing you really need to keep in mind is the properties that you're looking at are going to be covered in snow for a good portion of the year. So just really keep that in the back of your mind as you're looking at the property during the obviously the summertime, the autumn. Also keep that in mind if you're looking during the winter. This property is going to look completely different during the summertime. So keep that in mind. Third thing that you really need to take into consideration is accessibility is going to be really important. I have heard so many people reach out to me saying, hey, I want to go find something that's just off the grid. I just want to get away from people and have something that's that real Alaskan experience. And while I can really relate to that, the fact of the matter is accessibility when you're wanting to go kind of off the grid is going to be something we need to take a closer look at, because there are certain communities in Alaska where you can't get to it sometimes just by plane. That's it. Other places you can get there by plane or ferry, and that's going to be it as well. So accessibility is going to be very important, especially if you're looking at something more off the grid. That's fine if that's what you want to do, but it's important to just know how you're going to be getting there. Okay, it's an important part. Let's make sure we plan for it. The next one is going to be septic tanks. Now, while septic tanks might not be unique to Alaska, it is unique in that a big portion of the properties up here are on those septic tanks. And if you're living in the municipality of Anchorage, if the septic tank is 30 years or older, it automatically has to be replaced at the time that you're trying to sell it. So that's something you definitely have to keep in mind if you're looking at purchasing a place. Usually that's going to be a seller expense. Not always though. It just depends on the specific scenario that you're looking at. If you buy a property and that septic tank is kind of on its last leg, just know that you're probably going to have to replace it, and the cost to do that is going to be pretty comparable to replacing a roof. So just something to keep in mind. Has this been useful for you so far? If it has, make sure you do give this video a like. And also, if you are having any specific questions about how properties are bought or sold in Alaska, make sure that you post those down below, and I'll be happy to get to as many of those questions as I can. Now, without further ado, let's go and jump into the rest of today's video. Everywhere in the U.S. has CC&Rs, covenants, conditions, and restrictions on what you can do within a specific area. For Alaska, you need to pay special attention to these CC&Rs if what you're doing or wanting to do with the property is going to be unique. For instance, there are very specific CC&Rs sometimes that say, hey, you can't have sled dogs here, you can't have chickens here, you can't have horses here. So if the whole purpose of moving to an area is to go and do that stuff, then you need to be looking for those CC&Rs that might very specifically say you can't go do some Alaska-esque things that you were wanting to move up here to do in the first place. So pay attention to the CC&Rs that are going to be specific to Alaska. The next one, proximity to busy roads. Now, Alaska does not have monopoly on expansion and a number of roads that are getting busier in areas. We do know that for sure. The difference that I would have for Alaska is we're looking more to the Mat-Su Valley on this one. It's a very quickly growing community just because it is so affordable and it's an easy commute distance to Anchorage. And so for that reason, I expect to continue to see their numbers rise. Now, with that being the case, we're going to see more and more traffic, which means those busier roads are going to have to expand. So knowing that is why I would say if you are looking at buying a property that's right next to a busy road, just know there is probably going to be a point in which eminent domain is going to kick in, and part of that land is probably going to be taken over in order to expand the road. This is a big deal if you're new to the area. This is a big deal if you're looking along the Knik Goose Bay Road, KGB, where they're having to do just this. They're having to expand the road just because there's so much traffic back there that it's almost dangerous without broadening the road, so they're having to do that. But the people right there along the road are losing a part of their properties in the, just with making that happen. So make sure that you're aware of that going into it. If you're looking at a property right next to a busy road, no, that might be an option. If that's not something you ever want to mess with, don't look at any properties next to busy roads. The next thing is looking at the geographical configuration of the land. Again, not necessarily specific for Alaska, but if you are looking up here, you're going to have big variances in the landscape around here, so you should be aware of this. If you are looking at something that is really close to the bed of a river, chances are it is going to get colder down there than it's going to in the rest of the immediate area. Not always, but usually. Another thing, if you are right in the shadow of a mountain, that's all fine and good, and we all like that during the summertime. It's huge, it's majestic, but you also have to keep in mind, depending on the mountain, sometimes it will actually block out the sun during the winter time, which means that it's going to be darker, it's going to be colder, and you're going to have this mountain there blocking the sun out for the majority of the day. And if that's not okay, then maybe not buy there is all I'm saying. So just be aware of kind of the geography of the area, and if you're not really sure what it's going to look like or what it's going to be like during the winter time, just make sure to ask your realtor and be happy to kind of explain what it's going to be like kind of year round. Lastly is going to be wells. This is a huge part of buying a property in Alaska. A lot of properties up here are going to be, their water source is going to be a well, and it's a very well established, see what I did there? It's a very established way of getting water, so that's all fine and good. And the water is going to be very, very fresh, very clear, very crisp. The quality of the water in Alaska is always awesome. When I go to other states, I'm not going to name names, but when I go to other states, I'm just like, oh man, I forgot water was so good in Alaska. I kind of got spoiled. So that's another thing that's going to be a little unique to Alaska. You have very specific tests that you do on the wells to make sure that the well quality and the quantity, the well flow, are going to be sufficient for the property. So it's not like somebody just digs a hole down there and just whatever water you get out of there works. There's very specific tests that get done to verify that the well is sufficient. And if it's a community well, obviously there are going to be tests to make sure that's done as well. Thank you for watching. If this has been useful, make sure that you do give this video a like and make sure that you subscribe. More importantly though, if you are ready to start your search for homes in Alaska, make sure that you listen to my clip right after this where I'm going to be discussing how to download my app and how to start your search. And if you have any questions specifically for me, make sure that you reach out to me through my Facebook page. Link for that is going to be down below. That's going to be the best, for sure, fire way to get a hold of me. I do my best to answer as many comments as I can. But if you reach out to me through the Facebook page, that's going to be the best way to get a hold of me. So again, thank you for watching. Hope it was useful, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Downloading my app is pretty simple. You simply scroll to the description section of my videos, click on the link there. It's going to take you to my website. From there, scroll down, hit download app. It'll take you to a place where you enter in your phone number. Enter that in, click send link. It's going to text you a link to the App Store. And from there, you'll have to click on that, enter in your email address, and then it's going to register you to the app, and you'll be able to start modifying your search. You can modify number of bedrooms, bathrooms, property type. You have a lot of modifications you can do on there, or just draw a shape to it. From there, you'll have the ability to go and just browse through, create your own specific saved searches on there that's going to make sense for you. Go ahead and add notes just so it makes sense. And that's going to be kind of the basic search capabilities. There are a lot of extra bonuses and things to this that make it really beneficial, like walking you through the entire process as a buyer or seller and giving you all the details that's involved with each one of those steps. So never at any point are you going to be lost in the process. So we've kind of just scratched the surface here, but that's just to get you started.